Hello, 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 and welcome back to this week's episode of Rhetoric with Shakia. I'm Shakia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about my summer obsession. It might be yours. I am just a little bit ashamed about it. But we're going to talk about Love Island USA Season 8, Episodes 1 and 2. This is not an in-depth recap. It's just some initial thoughts that I had watching the first two episodes. Before we get started, actually, I was watching Episode 1 of Season 13 of Love Island UK. Much better format. And I had watched Love Island before, prior to Season 7, but I had watched the UK version. I never finished a complete season before, but I am familiar, obviously, with the show. And when I was watching episode 1 of season 13 of Love Island UK, I just kept thinking, like, dag, why are they not doing this with the USA version? They got to engage with each other, right? Like, really talk, get to know each other. And everything wasn't a kissing challenge. They actually got to engage, which I thought, what a concept, right? On a show that's about dating. Obviously, we know there's a competitive component because there's a grand prize at the end, but I'm saying, like, come on. So I am really hoping that USA can take notes, Love Island USA can take notes, and we can actually have more. And I actually said this last season too, or I thought it. I don't know if it made it into any of my videos, but they need to be able, like, the Islanders need to be able to actually talk even during the challenges. Like, they need to be able to get to know each other. Come on, guys, get it together. But anyway, okay, so let's jump into it. Episode 2 starts off with the remaining Islanders who are waiting to see if the person that they are in a couple with, if they are behind the door. So episode 1 ended with the Islanders having to step on a circle, red or green, to determine whether or not, keep in mind this is day 1, right? To determine whether or not they wanted to stay in their couple or if they wanted to explore. Kenzie stepped on the green, indicating she wanted to stay in her couple with Zach. However, Zach told her that that Kenzie is not typically the type of woman he dates. That's not, like, she's not typically the type of woman he's attracted to. He said that he likes a woman with dark features. And she was like, dark hair? And he was like, dark features. And so Kenzie's whole thing was, oh, he's not attracted to blondes. And she can't, oh, honey, she can't fathom that this man is not attracted to blondes. Also, Kenzie, we can see the brunette, babe. So I'm like, you'll have that dark hair in no time. But anyway, so as a viewer watching this, we weren't surprised that Zach did not step on the green circle. Now, keep in mind, Kenzie did have a conversation with Melanie. I don't know if it was strategy when Melanie was kind of encouraging her to still stick it out with Zach, see where this goes, which would be okay if they didn't have an option so early on to explore. If somebody told you you're not their typical type and there is some sort of challenge where you guys get to step on a circle and either stay in the couple or go off and explore, I would think the guy who told me I'm not his type and who's been a little standoffish and you're trying to figure out whether or not he's into you, I wouldn't be surprised if he stood on the red dot. So I can understand why Kenzie is disappointed because she clearly liked Zach. She's the one who initially stood at his door when they had to couple up in episode 1. So I can understand she's disappointed by him not being behind the door, but you can't be surprised, Kenzie, because he told you that. He was very clear. Now, even with that, I know people have been talking about Kenzie crashing out. I actually don't think she was crashing out. I think she was just, like, upset. She was disappointed. I think she literally cannot fathom that somebody is not interested in her. And so she probably feels rejected. Look, and there's a first time for everything. So there's that. Now, we also see that Sean is in the same boat as Kenzie, kind of. So Sean was coupled up with Bea or Beatrice. He was coupled up with her, and things seemed to be going well with them. Like, they were having conversation. They both seemed to be into each other. They were engaged with each other, like, engaged in conversation with one another. So I can understand why Sean was surprised that Bea wasn't there, that she had chose to step on a different circle and she chose to explore other options. I get why he's surprised. Also, can we just Sean is very handsome. Sean is very handsome. I feel like Sean is a menace in like some of the best ways and not so good in not so good ways. Sean is handsome. But here's the thing. Sean is a dad. Sean, however, came in from the gate. He came in and he told them that he was a dad. This was no secret. This was no like surprise. You got to figure it out or guess. He was very upfront. I don't particularly like the wording he chose, but that's another conversation. But he let everybody know that he is a dad, which means Bea knew that when she stood at his door, episode 1, to choose him to couple up with. She knew he was a dad. Then, after when she's talking with the rest of the girls, she's like, I don't know, because I don't date men with kids outside the villa, so I don't know if I would do that here. Now, again, that's not an issue. And it's still so early. Absolutely. Explore, explore, explore. My only issue with Bea is that during her conversations with Sean, she never said that she had any reservations about him being a dad. Now, everybody else knew because she mentioned it, to other folk. She mentioned it to the rest of the girls, to the rest of the women, but she never told Sean. So he's like, yo, I don't know what's up. And he looked genuinely disappointed by that. And so we're going to see what happens with Sean and Beatrice. Episode 2, we also get to hear from the bombshells. We get to meet them because at the end of episode 1, they enter the villa. We have Gabriel and we have Kata. I'm going to be honest before we go any further. Gabriel is not my favorite. There's something about him that I just don't like. I don't know. There's something off. And I don't know if he seems a little sneaky or he's not genuine, but there's something that's just, there is something about him that is off for me. Also, when he came in night 1 and he's, kissing the girls, he had to kiss Bea and Trinity because those were the two who stood on the red dot signifying that they wanted to explore other options. So hence Gabriel comes in and he kisses them, which again, so much kissing. Why? Like, let's have conversation. I need them to be a little more like UK. Now, I don't know if that's going to change because if I watch a few more episodes and UK is running amok, we'll see. But for now, lock in Love Island USA. Anyway, he comes in, he kisses them. But then when he goes to kiss, I think it's Bea, he like undoes his shirt. Sir, why? What was the point? I don't know. I just was like, ugh, it's a little creepy, it's a little cringe. I don't like it. Get it off my screen. Anyway. So now, episode 2, we see these producers. It's a throuple that's happening. It's a threesome. So we have the 2 bombshells. We have Gabriel, and he is with Trinity and Bea. They get to know each other. They're talking just a little bit, and then they start making out. And then we have Kata, that's the bombshell, and Zach and Bryce. By the way, Bryce, he's so unforgettable for me. Like, not unforgettable, he's so forgettable. I literally forget about him. Bryce was coupled up with Trinity. When Trinity found out how old Bryce was, she was like, nah, I don't know about this. Trinity is clearly there to have a good time, and I'm not mad at it. She's like 22. She quit her job at a hardware store. And I read some comments about how, people are upset that she quit her job. I'm like, she's 22, and no tea, no shade. She's 22. She was working at a hardware store. And now she gets to go and have this experience in Fiji. I am not mad at it. Live your best 22 life. Come on. I'm not mad at it at all. But anyway, she is there to have a good time. I am hoping that, if she does connect, that she will allow herself to connect with somebody if, there's somebody there who is genuine about her, which we're going to talk about who I think that might be. But anyway, once Trinity found out how old Bryce was, she was like, I want to explore. So there was no surprise that she stood on the red dot, and there was no surprise that Bryce stood on the red dot, because he was like, I don't know, this age thing might be a big deal for her. I didn't realize the gap. He's also one of the oldest people in the villa at 29, I think. And they made such a big deal out of it, which low-key pissed me off, because I'm like, come on, like, hold on, not too much now. Okay, so Bryce, Kata, and Zach, they are getting to know the bombshell, okay? I mean, well, they're getting to know each other. Kata is the bombshell, excuse me. So my issue, my qualm, what makes this creepy is that there's a giant bed, and each group is sleeping in their own giant bed. We have Gabriel, Trinity, and Beatrice sleeping in a bed, and then we have Kata, what's the other one named? Lord, Kata, Bryce, and Zach sleeping in another bed. And I'm like, why? That's creepy. It's creepy when they make the couples do it, but now all three together, that's just weird. I don't know. It's too much too soon, Love Island. I just feel like it's too much too soon. But anyway, maybe not too much too soon, because Kata and Zach were kissing in the bed, and Bryce is on the other side. And so they're kissing. And then Bryce rolls over and he says something to the effect of, like, don't leave me out or something. And Kato is like, well, you're going to get left out tonight. And she was like, just tonight though. And I thought that was funny, because that is so embarrassing, but also it was hilarious. And I thought she handled that well. Then we see that the next day rolls around. They have these individual dates with each other, with the bombshells. The Islanders have the dates with the bombshells. We can see where the chemistry is. We can see that Kata is definitely into Zach, and we see that Gabriel is into, not Trinity, is into Bea, right? Again, a lot of makeout sessions are happening. By the way, Trinity, when she was at the villa, she was talking to one of the other Islanders. I can't remember which one, and she was saying how she has this thing about texture and saliva, and she don't really like kissing all that much. And I'm like, why would you come on this show, this franchise? That's all they do. That's all they make these people do, is kiss, 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 kiss. So I'm like, I don't know how she's going to get through the next few weeks if she is there, because of all the kissing that is going on. Okay, so fast forward, back at the villa, the Islanders, they get a text. They say, by the way, they got a text when Casey was talking. So at this point, Casey is in a couple with Anaya, and we're going to talk a little bit more about them in a second. Casey, he doesn't really say all that much. So he's in the middle at that point in the episode. So he's in the middle of making a toast, and then boom, interrupted by a text that Sincere, I believe Sincere got the text. And Sincere is in a couple with Melanie. We're gonna talk about them in a minute. So anyway, okay, so they get a text, they go around the fire pit. You know that once these Islanders are around this fire pit, something about to happen. So what happens? They get another text. They are informed that the bombshells are in the villa. And so the bombshells come in. We have Kata and Zach and Bryce. See, I almost forgot him again. Kata, Zach, and Bryce. And then we see Gabriel and Trinity and Bea. The bombshells have to decide who they want to couple up with. No surprise. Let's just jump to it. Kata chose Zach, and Gabriel chose Bea. And they choose who they want to couple up with, and then they make out while the other person is standing right there. And I mean, they make out. Like, it's aggressive. I'm like, yo, what's going on? Anyway, but I'm like, damn, let them sit down first. You know, the ones who didn't get selected, let them sit down. Like, why you gotta stand up there all together and just swap and spit? Okay, so because Trinity and Bryce were not chosen by the bombshells, they end up back in a couple together. And both of them have really good spirits about it. They're like, okay, we're going to do this. And I think that part is great, right? They're both so open. They both recognize that it was okay for each of them to explore. That is why they are there. Again, especially so early on. It's only like day 2. So it made sense. No hard feelings. But listen, so that Kenzie is single and vulnerable because Zach is now in a couple with Kata, and Sean is single and vulnerable. Hi, Sean. No. Sean is single and vulnerable because he was in a couple with Bea. Okay. So when I can't remember why, but when Kenzie was standing up there and she said something to Zach like, thank you, and blew a kiss. And he was like, you're welcome. I'm like, Kenzie, girl, take the L and just sit down because it's not even really an L. You know what I mean? Like, again, still the early stages. Anything can happen in this freaking villa. Like, chill. Just take a beat. And one of her confessionals, she was like, I always choose cheaters. I think that's probably why people were talking about her crashing out. But she was just talking about her history of dating. And she's like, I always choose cheaters. And I'm like, Kenzie, calm down. At least he was upfront with you, but y'all still have time to figure some stuff out, whether it's together or with other people. So now I think Kenzie is going to try and explore Sean. He was being nice and he made her breakfast, and I think it was pancakes, and she was like, I like how it was in a heart, and that was just really nice. Here's what I think will happen. So I think Kenzie has an interest in Sean now because both of them are single and vulnerable. So we're going to see how that plays out. But speaking of Sean, Anaya also has an interest in him. Anaya is currently in a couple with KC. They sort of ended up in a couple. Neither of them chose the other on night 1. So night 1, the women had to stand behind the door of the guy they wanted to couple up with. Anaya stood behind Sincere's door, but so did Melanie. And Sincere chose to couple up with Melanie. Nobody stood behind KC's door. I felt so bad for him. Like, secondhand embarrassment is a real thing, but he took it like a champ, kind of. Not really, because I'm pretty sure, like, this is going to be his narrative for a minute. Nobody stood behind my door. And so, because no one stood behind Casey's door and because Sincere chose Melanie, then that meant that Anaya and KC they ended up in a couple together. I think that Anaya is attracted to KC. However, I don't think that KC is her initial type. Here's why. Because Homegirl kind of told us. Number 1, she stood behind Sincere's door. Sincere and KC look very different from each other. And when she was having a conversation with Sean and Melanie, and Sean said, they were asking him, like, well, who were you initially attracted to when you got into the villa, when you came to the house? And I heard him say Trinity, but apparently he said Trinity and Anaya because when he left, she was so geeked about it. And she was like, oh my God, that's so crazy because he was my top 2. So I'm like, damn, Sincere was 1, he was 2. Did Casey make it in your top at all? You know what I mean? Like in top 3, maybe. Again, Casey and Sincere, they look very different from Casey. And so, I'm sorry, Sean and Sincere look very different from KC. And also just like age wise, there are some differences. So again, it's not that I don't think Anaya is attracted to KC. I just think that clearly he was not her first or second choice. So she is definitely going to be exploring. I also think KC is absolutely going to be exploring. Let me be very clear. I think as soon as somebody shows an interest in him outside of Anaya, he is going to dive in. Actually, I think KC likes Kenzie. Yes, I can see that happening, not necessarily because he is Kenzie's first or second choice, but because KC, I think he's into her. when he was having a conversation with her, he asked, "Well, would you still be open to exploring some of the guys that the girls are already, like, into?" And I was like, "Oh, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing." And look, I'm not mad at it. It's still early, and people should go after who they want, who they like. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Now, obviously, there are all sorts of this conversation that we can get into, but nonetheless, we're not going to go there today. What we are going to talk about is who I think will end up exploring each other. That sounds weird. We're going to talk about who might explore being in a couple together. So, one, I do think that I think Casey might try and explore Kinsey. We'll see if she would be interested in that. I do think Anaya will try and explore with Sean. I do think, and here's the thing, I'm not mad at that though. I think Sean, I don't know. I think he may have gotten a bad rep. A lot of people are annoyed because he's a dad. A lot of people watching, as per comments I saw on social media, is because he's a cop and he's a dad. But there is something likable about him. So we'll see if he pisses me off. Right now, I wouldn't be mad at Anaya and Sean in a couple together, especially if he also is genuinely attracted and into her. Want to make sure that part is clear. I think that Casey, I already said this, I think that Casey wants to explore with Kenzie. Also, I think Kenzie, though, I think she might try and explore with Sean. So we're going to see how that plays out. And okay, I might be delusional here, but hear me out. I kind of want Zach and Trinity. I know that Zach is in a couple with Kata, but I want Zach and Trinity to explore. Like, I kind of want to see where that could go. I think in the first episode, at least when I was watching, again, maybe I could be delusional, but Zach definitely was checking for Trinity. And I thought that's who would pair up because I thought she also was vibing with him too, but maybe not. But I think for sure he was interested in her. I think if she was behind his door, um, he wouldn't have been upset with that. So we're gonna see what happens there. I can also see Melanie and Sincere staying in their couple a tad bit longer, but not for very long. I think Sincere definitely wants to explore. I think Melanie is probably going to initially be upset by that. She seems a little territorial. Melanie seems a little territorial. But this is the name of the game, right? This is Love Island. I kind of want Bryce to go. I was going to call him Bruce. Lord, this man, his name is Bryce, right? I want Bryce to go. I want Gabriel to go. And Bea, I could, she can stay, she could go. Not, I don't really have too much of an opinion on her. I think if Bea does stay, I can also see Bea exploring Sean again. Well, no, because she's very adamant. It's just that when those initial conversations that they were having, those initial interactions, there did seem to be something between the two of them. So we'll see if either of them have an open mind because I don't know. There's something about Gabriel. So I don't know how long he's going to be in the villa, but we'll see. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what your predictions are. Also, let me know if you are watching Love Island UK season 13. Oh, because they're already talking about an elimination for the first episode. The first episode. Okay, but I'm not going to start talking about Love Island UK in this video. Let me know if you are watching Love Island UK and if you want to talk about it together because I do have some thoughts about that cast too. Even though I think that the way they handled the first episode was much better than Love Island USA, there's still some shenanigans at play here. And if you've been watching, you probably know what I'm talking about. So let me know, and we can definitely talk about that if you are interested. Again, what are your predictions regarding the couples and who might be in game? That's the fun part. And then we might place a bet. Can we place a bet? No, we're not going to do that. That wouldn't be okay, right? No. It might. Listen, this is fun. Let me know what you're thinking about the episode so far. At the time of this recording, at the time I'm recording this video, again, we've only watched episodes 1 and 2. So what are your thoughts? Okay, anyway, that's all I got for now. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. I hope you come back for the next one because, listen, I'm pretty locked into this shit. So we are probably going to be talking about Love Island for a few weeks. However, we're also going to talk about some other stuff. I have some other things lined up. So we're going to talk about things unrelated to Love Island, but we are going to be talking about Love Island. And I hope that we get to have some fun together. So anyway, come on back. But until then, bye for now.